The tragic death of 6-year-old beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey shocked the world and haunted investigators for decades. But now, with the help of groundbreaking DNA technology, the mystery may finally be solved. And the truth isn't what anyone hoped for. New evidence has surfaced that could change everything. And those closest to the case say the police are just one step away from closing it for good. But will justice finally be served? And what really happened that night? And why now, after all these years, is the JonBenet Ramsey mystery finally being solved? And just so you know, it isn't good. Over 28 years after the tragic murder of 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey, new DNA technology has reignited hope in solving the case. But before we dive into that, let's go 28 years back to when the shocking case that sent ripple effects across the government and media occurred. It all started in December 1996 and turned the Ramsey family's holiday plans into a nightmare. On December 26, 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey was found dead in the basement of her family's Colorado home. She was found with a garrote, which is a strangulation device, embedded in her neck. An autopsy result revealed a fracture in her skull. What's more, there was a ransom note left behind saying that she had been kidnapped and that they needed to pay $118,000 for her return, but her body was in the basement all along. Her father realized that she was missing, so he called the cops, and they looked for her for a few hours until he discovered her body in the basement. Shockingly, he carried her up in tears, leading suspicion to fall on the family. From the bizarre ransom note to the lack of signs of forced entry, it led to a lot of speculation. The crime scene was badly secured, too, and the media was highly involved in the case. For a long time, the Ramsey family were the main suspects in the case. In 2003, investigators extracted mixed male DNA from JonBenet's underwear, which did not match any Ramsey family member and was submitted to the FBI's CODIS database. Later, there was a 2008 exoneration of the family, which was publicly supported by Boulder's district attorney and reinforced by these DNA findings. What's more, unknown male DNA traces were discovered on multiple items, including the garrote and a blanket, suggesting the killer's bodily contact with the crime scene. Despite early missteps at the scene, modern technologies now allow labs to extract usable profiles from these previously analyzed samples. The major leap forward is due to forensic genetic genealogy, a method that combines DNA profiling with consumer genealogy databases. It was this technique that allowed authorities to identify the Golden State Killer in 2018, causing a lot of optimism around the possibility of this being used in the Ramsey investigation, too. JonBenet's father, John Ramsey, has recommended multiple times to the police that they should retest important evidence like the ransom note, garrote, flashlight, and underwear using the latest labs that can generate genealogy-ready profiles. According to JonBenet's family, the police have all they need to finally close the case after all these years. For nearly 3 decades, the Ramsey family has stuck with the idea that the police already have the key evidence they need to crack the JonBenet Ramsey case. John Ramsey, the girl's father, has repeatedly stated that law enforcement has the necessary evidence and has urged them to use modern DNA testing techniques to find the killer. In January 2025, John Ramsey met with Boulder Police Chief Stephen Redfern and a genetic genealogy expert for about 90 minutes, and they discussed how to apply these technologies to retest the crime scene items. Chief Redfern and other officials have since expressed openness to collaborate with the FBI and independent labs, showing that they are committed to solving the case despite all the years that have passed. John also added that they should use genealogical DNA, which can yield a 60 to 70% probability of identifying the perpetrator of the case. There has been some hesitation among investigative institutions, especially because of the problem of evidence contamination, which has delayed the investigation over the years. But authorities are still implementing fresh testing protocols, gathering support from new leadership, and responding to public pressure spurred by recent documentaries. Meanwhile, John Andrew Ramsey, JonBenet's older half-brother, has also stepped forward with a strong assurance, saying this case can be solved. He emphasized that volunteers still work on the case daily, driven by their belief in eventual resolution. In a recent interview, John Andrew spoke candidly about the personal background of the family. They had to cope with their mother Patsy being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and also the earlier death of their sister Beth in a car accident. They never expected that another shocking tragedy would happen to their family. They were dealing with the loss of their sister when everything became worse, as the entire world believed that they were involved in the murder. He said, "We lost our sister and our daughter. We were victims, and the very people that we thought were going to come in and protect us and help us were pointing the finger at us. We were just regular people. And then all of a sudden, their world just got turned upside down." John Andrew also revealed that after a decade of defending themselves, the 2008 DNA exoneration finally cleared the family. According to him, what remains is the urgent need for law enforcement to find the right suspect and start prosecuting while relying on modern forensic possibilities. Both Ramseys are united in their stance, saying that the police already have the critical untested DNA and evidence to finally solve the mystery. But they need to act decisively. But what about the perspective of JonBenet's other brother, who was a major suspect? After nearly 3 decades of silence, Burke Ramsey, JonBenet Ramsey's brother, made headlines by participating in a 3-part interview on Dr. Phil. This was his first public statement since the 1996 tragedy. He declined any interview, including offers from Netflix and other documentaries. When asked why he decided to finally speak, Burke replied, "If the story is going to be told, I want to tell it. I don't want people talking about me. I would rather tell my own story." His comments underscore his desire to reclaim the narrative after years of media scrutiny. During the interview, Burke firmly denied using any object to harm his sister, unlike what the media had said when the case first broke. His reply was clear: absolutely not. He shared that on the morning of the tragedy, he stayed in bed because he thought his sister was hiding. The interview also delved into his police interrogations. As a 9-year-old, Burke was scared and confused. It was because of this nervousness that he smiled at moments when the cops were asking him questions, causing them to misinterpret this as guilt. But he explained that it was a feeling of discomfort and a nervous reaction. In the interview, Dr. Phil guided Burke through the 911 call, including playing tapes that had never been aired before, questions about why he remained in bed while the police and family were active downstairs, and his shocking realization when he understood that his sister was gone forever. But Burke has proposed his own theory about the case, also hoping that it would finally be solved. He believed that a pageant-obsessed predator or pedophile was behind his sister's death and not his family. He revealed that he was hopeful that the case will eventually be solved, especially with the latest DNA evidence. Well, it seems like he is right because the Ramsey family are no longer the suspects of this 3-decade-long case. One of the strangest aspects of the JonBenet Ramsey mystery was the initial police fixation on the parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, as primary suspects. Investigators focused intensely on the family in part because there were no signs of forced entry. The ransom note was written on home stationery and it coincidentally referenced John's recent bonus. Because of the tunnel vision of the police investigation, all other viable leads, even those that pointed to possible intruders, were ignored and overlooked. If they had expanded their options, they would have probably had more likely suspects, especially in the path of a possible crazy fan or predator. But they didn't, and the case lasted for 28 years. At last, the mystery is finally almost solved with the latest DNA technology. The parents as the main suspect was not as foolproof as it seemed, especially because JonBenet was first struck with a heavy object that cracked her skull before being strangled with a garrote. It's unlikely that her parents would murder her in such a horrible way. In an interview with Joe Brullinger, the documentarian that made Cold Case, JonBenet Ramsey, he said, "JonBenet died from strangulation with a garrote. If anyone thinks a mother would have the presence of mind or the knowledge and experience to create that kind of a torturous death for their daughter over bedwetting, I'm sorry, it's just not plausible." In fact, the parents were almost sent to jail for child endangerment and accessory charges, but DA Alex Hunter declined to file charges, citing insufficient evidence. Criticism intensified after 2008 when DNA analysis revealed male DNA belonging to an unknown individual, and this cleared the Ramseys entirely. Former DA Mary Lacey later publicly exonerated the family, stating that they were the victims of this crime. She also said that the police had ignored important evidence that pointed away from the Ramseys because they were mostly focused on proving the family's guilt. By 2013, investigators then revealed that their main line of inquiry was an intruder theory because they recognized clear signs of an unidentified male presence in the house. Over 1,600 people were possible persons of interest, including local burglars, registered sex offenders, and pageant connections. Yet, they could not explore this at that time because they focused mostly on the family. But apart from being hyper-focused on the parents, the investigators also suspected Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's brother, who was only 9 years old at that time. Despite the fact that Burke Ramsey was officially ruled out as a suspect, the DA, Alex Hunter, later said that Burke was not and never had been a suspect. Still, many people suspected him, even the media. In 2016, CBS released a docuseries called The Case of JonBenet Ramsey. CBS experts concluded that Burke, who was 9 years old, might have accidentally struck his sister with a flashlight after an argument over a pineapple, fatally injuring her. They pointed to a past incident where Burke hit her with a golf club and his demeanor in interviews as evidence. The main so-called evidence was the pineapple theory, as Burke's fingerprints were found on a bowl and teacup. An undigested pineapple was found in JonBenet's stomach. According to CBS experts, this might have been her final moment. They also referred to the fact that he was smiling and calm during the police questioning. However, Burke and his family have strongly denied these claims. In response, he sued CBS and pathologist Werner Spitz for defamation, leading to confidential settlements. In a rare public statement, Burke firmly said, "You won't find any evidence because that's not what happened." He told Dr. Phil he believes a pageant-obsessed intruder was responsible for his sister's murder. There are still some beliefs that the Burke did it theory is plausible. Some say that he was too young to commit to such violence and strangle his sister after hitting her, but others believe that he actually did it and his parents staged the scene to protect him. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Although one of the main problems of the JonBenet Ramsey mystery was the fact that they focused too much on the parents, another issue was that the crime scene was contaminated, which botched the entire investigation. When police arrived, they secured only JonBenet's bedroom, allowing family, friends, and detectives to move freely through the house, washing surfaces, touching evidence, and even relocating JonBenet's body, which severely compromised the integrity of forensic evidence. In fact, her father found her body and carried her up from the basement instead of calling the officers downstairs. Also, the officers used poor protocols during the investigation. They missed the basement where JonBenet was later found by her father hours after the 911 call. They failed to bring in crime scene dogs or promptly seal off the entire property. What's more, the incident occurred during Christmas with understaffed departments and confusion, creating a perfect storm recognized by former police chief Mark Beckner, who admitted the mishandling set the investigation on the wrong path. To make it worse, key items like the garrote, ransom note, rope, and flashlight haven't undergone modern forensic retesting, and some remain untested or potentially lost. One of the mysteries of the investigation that the cops have not been able to break is that of the ransom note. The infamous 3-page ransom note discovered by Patsy Ramsey on the stairs Christmas morning demanded $118,000, the exact amount of John Ramsey's bonus, raising immediate suspicion of intimate knowledge. It was written on stationery from inside the home using Patsy's pen. And the note was unnaturally long, formal, and theatrical, featuring movie quotes from Dirty Harry and Speed, threats of beheading, and signatures like SBTC. It was so strange that they questioned its authenticity, wondering whether it was intentionally placed there to confuse the investigation or if it was an attempt to exploit money from John Ramsey. Experts have long debated handwriting origins. Some linked it to Patsy. Others claimed a criminal impersonator wrote it. Utah private investigator Jason Jensen theorized SBTC might refer to academic jargon like those used by students at the University of Colorado Boulder, suggesting a local intruder. Psychological profilers dismiss it as a bogus kidnapping note created to misdirect investigators. Linguistic experts highlight the bizarre phrasing, "We advise you to be arrested," as inconsistent with real kidnappers. Aside from the ransom note, there were other crime scene clues that the police investigated. Although the crime scene was contaminated, there was still a bit of evidence. JonBenet's father and brothers believe that the authorities can re-examine this evidence and use this to finally solve the mystery. Investigators found an open basement window with a scuff mark beneath it, leaves and packing peanuts inside, and a suitcase placed under the window, suggesting possible intruder access. A high-tech boot print near JonBenet's body didn't match any family member. What's more, JonBenet was found strangled by a homemade garrote, a nylon cord tied around a paintbrush handle from Patsy's art supplies. A matching crude ligature on her wrist was also noted. There was also a lot of DNA, more than you would expect for a case that has not yet been solved all these years. Multiple places under her fingernails, underwear, garrote, long johns, and wrist cord yielded male DNA that didn't match the Ramseys. But till now, they have not figured out who the DNA belongs to. There was other trace evidence, too. A palm print was located on the wine cellar door. Green Christmas garland fibers were found in her hair. Duct tape on her mouth came from a different source. And a latex glove was found in nearby trash. As the cops tried to investigate JonBenet Ramsey's murder, the media was busy scrutinizing every single step and throwing dirty water on the family. The JonBenet Ramsey murder case quickly changed from serious journalism into a trial by television. Most cable news and tabloids sensationalized the tragedy and were boosting ratings instead of focusing on verifiable facts. Notably, Geraldo Rivera's 1997 mock trial on the Geraldo Rivera Show theatrically convicted Patsy and John Ramsey before any legal judgment, blurring entertainment with presumed guilt. Rivera later issued a public apology for the harm caused. Tabloids further vilified the family by alleging bizarre claims that Patsy forced JonBenet into pageants and that John had misconduct, but these were later shown to be false. The media spotlight even reached Burke Ramsey, then just 9, whose nervous reactions were portrayed as guilt-indicative smiles. Journalists like Michael Tracy and critics have described the coverage as a public lynching and media assassination, condemning how unverified speculation overshadowed truth, trampling the presumption of innocence. The relentless focus on the Ramsey family skewed public perception, turning a tragedy into a spectacle and, critics say, heavily contributed to an environment where injustice thrived. Despite all the challenges, the Ramsey family have continued to grow and are achieving success in other parts of their life as they also look to solve the mystery of JonBenet's murder. John Ramsey remains the strongest advocate for his daughter's murder case to be solved. Since Patsy, his wife and JonBenet's mother, passed away in 2006, he is still promoting renewed DNA testing and is encouraging the government to resume investigating his daughter's death. He splits his time between Michigan and Utah, married his third wife, Jan Roussos, in 2011, and remains hopeful that modern forensic methods and external experts can bring justice. As for Burke Ramsey, he attended Purdue University and earned a degree in computer and information technology, has kept a low public profile, and now works as a software engineer in Michigan. He is married and lives privately with minimal public attention. He declined participation in the Netflix docuseries, but broke his silence in 2016 on Dr. Phil, defending himself and supporting the intruder theory. John Andrew Ramsey is JonBenet's half-brother from John's first marriage. He has been a vocal advocate for solving the case, appeared in the Netflix docuseries, and consistently criticizes police handling while urging for DNA-focused investigation. The entire family is now focused on ensuring that the police pursue fresh DNA testing and ultimately find JonBenet's real killer. With all the pieces finally coming together, it seems like all that is left is for the authorities to retest the DNA and give the Ramsey family some answers. Which theory do you think is more likely for JonBenet's murder? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.